Dispatching all biters. My quest to free the country of zombies. Mystic Alchemist. Copyright 2020 Mystic Alchemist. All rights reserved. Written in Australian English. This book is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places and incidents are either a product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual people living or dead, events or locales is purely coincidental. Chapter 7. Country break. Feeling tired and finding it hard to concentrate when I pulled off for a break. 3:30 by the car clock. Stopped under a grove of trees a good way off the side of the road. I walked around the car, glad to stretch my legs and get my circulation working again. This was real farming country. Wide open fields with no sign of habitation. Really pleased with the amount of distance I'd covered so far, and wanted to keep piling on the miles for as long as I could keep alert. My head was down in the trunk to find something different to eat when I heard the moan, much louder than any I'd heard before. Giant zombies was my first thought, and then I remembered that the axe was in the front seat and all I had was a folding knife in my pants. I had to face it. Cow. Or steer or bull or heifer. I wasn't good with knowing the exact difference. Maybe it wasn't a bull because it didn't have huge antlers, or was that horns? Shoo, I said loudly, and it did, turning and running away from me, its hooves shaking the ground. A year's supply of hamburgers, but I knew nothing about how to really prepare it and then had no way of keeping it for more than a day. I definitely wasn't a country man. I tried one of those freeze-dried pouches I'd found in that luxury car before. Just add water and wait. Labeled as turkey dinner, but tasting like wet cardboard. It was filling though, but made me think how many preppers had spent so much cash on supplies without tasting them. Not that it mattered now, there was no way for them to get a refund. Soon as I set off again I saw another vehicle moving. Of course I stopped dead by the edge of the road and played dead, or rather undead. The car wasn't on the road, driving slowly around the edge of a field. White like mine, but it was an old pickup truck, smaller than those in fashion now, the sort of thing I expected to see in a farm. They'd seen me. The truck turned toward me and bumped its way closer. It couldn't be a zombie, they can't drive. And they weren't wearing a black uniform either. Maybe it was a real person. I was surprised at how much I was willing it to be so. I'd never been much of a social person, but it would be good to see someone that I didn't need to splat. Caution to the wind, I came and stood by my car, still with my axe in my arm just in case, and watched that truck inch closer. Only a single person inside, a man in a check top. Not good with ages, but I guess 25. He stopped across the fence from where I was parked, stopping the motor and opening the door, a rifle in his hand. Rifle beats axe every time, so it was up to me to put him at ease. I'm glad to finally find someone that doesn't want to bite me. Just you. A tinge of uncertainty in his voice. I knew him now. All bluster. Just me. Trying to get across the country to help a friend. They still there? Not sure, but what else can I do? I don't want to wait for those people in black to kill me. Bad in the cities. Nothing but government traitors left. I spat the words, leaving him no doubt what side I was on. We stood sizing up each other. I decided I wanted him in my group. He had a weapon and a vehicle and he seemed a bit like I imagine I am. He was a good ally for any quest, so I broke the silence. Name's Paul. Nigel, but they call me Iggy. Nigel to me. You play video games? Shooters, he said, looking more settled. Red Dead Redemption my favorite. Old but a goodie. Was playing a new zombie one when this happened, my arms sweeping around the country. Net. Yeah. Streamed from the net. No net here, I can only get discs. Come and I'll show you. He pointed the way for me to drive ahead while he drove alongside the other side of the fence. Then it was through a gate and along a rough track, over a small rise to a farmhouse and outbuildings nested down out of sight. A great secluded place to hide up, if someone wanted to hide. I parked alongside his truck and then followed him as he walked toward the back door of the farmhouse. Certainly been there a lot of years, the paint peeling off the walls, but then there were plants up hiding some of the peeling and making it hard for anyone to repaint without chopping the greenery. You been here long? I said to make conversation. Born here. And most likely your father too, I thought. Anyone else? Mom and Dad caught it. I didn't need to ask any more, one look at his face told me his pain. You planning on staying? He didn't say, so I thought to gently suggest. I'm looking for someone to join my quest. He said nothing, so I added, that is unless you've got something better to do. Just caring for the cows. He showed me his gaming rig. Both brands of box and a large high-definition monitor and a shelf piled with discs. Got through them all? I asked as I tried to read the main titles. Those I could get through and those I didn't think too lame. I chuckled at that. Me too. Not having the net saved you, you know. He looked at me silly, so I told him all about my exploits with being nearly killed by using Loverboy's phone, then using a found phone for bait and attacking a helicopter. Want a hot shower? The farm's got solar on the roof and solar hot water. Power when it shines. Was that the best ever shower in the whole world? Steaming hot water and feeling really clean until I looked at the pile of my clothes, most splattered with mashed brain and dried blood. I wore some of those old and fetched clean from the car. I was a new man. Nigel made us both a hot meal. Anything was better than cold beans in a can, and while it wasn't as good as the pizza I was secretly craving, it was still good. I'll show you your room. Best we sleep apart in case one of us turn in the night. He was right, and even though it wasn't dark, I was curled in a clean bed that was half comfortable and feeling like the world had got a whole lot better than it had been before. Breakfast. I woke like I was in a hotel with room service. Come when you're ready. Nigel had toast and jam and I copied. I've been thinking, he started while I had my mouth full. This quest of yours. What do you do when you find this friend? When I find her, we'll find ways to upset these traitors' plans. What if you don't find her? Then I go on alone. I can't see anything else to do but fight against this government. They'd kill me as quick as they could, so I have no future until I get rid of them. You be looking for more to join you? His voice sounding very serious. If they wanted to join, but I can't offer anything special other than we try to get them before they get us. I've never been able to play co-op. It's not hard when you both have the same objective, but unlike a game, this gets a bit messy. I saw the look on his face again. It must have been hard with his parents. Did you bury them? Alongside the main tank. There's a garden there, he said. That always been your car? I told him all about the apartment and he told me all about the car. Turns out he was good with mechanical things and loved messing about with old cars. The truck he was driving had stopped working, but he swapped the ignition module and made it go again. I should call you Nigel the mechanic, I said. He smiled at that. You'll be a great asset to our group. We didn't say anything specific, but he went through the house and then shed, picking up things that he handed to me to hold. Slowly we amassed enough tools and bits to repair anything in either vehicle and more. Then it was ammunition for his rifle. Only a .22, he said, government won't let us have bigger. When I showed him my found pistol he knew how to use it with one look. 7 shots left, he said, pointing me where the safety catch was. 3 metal tool boxes struggled into the back of his truck as well as all the treasures he'd selected before. In the passenger side went clothes and boots and some water and food. In some way I won't be sad to leave here. It's time I struck out and found my own place in the world. I knew he was putting on a front and I didn't push things, just sorting things in my car to make it easier to find. One last look around the house. I stayed back to let him reminisce. A couple of tiny things slipped in his pants pockets and he was ready. I'll follow you and flash the lights if I want you to stop, he said as he locked the back door for the last time. He'd wanted to use radios, there were sets at the farm, but I told him nothing that put out a radio signal. We were back to hand signals and yelling like the pioneers of old. Have you got time to check on someone in case they're alive? How far? About an hour, but sort of in your way. I looked at him and thought what it might be. You liked her? He nodded. But she didn't know you existed. Nodding again. I knew that well. Do you want to lead or get me to put it in the navigator? I ended up leading, feeling unsettled every time I saw the truck behind, so used to fearing the others. Still farming country with only sparse houses. We went through a village and there were mourners walking around the road. In one way that was comforting, meaning the government hadn't yet removed them, or whatever they did to disappear them. My current idea was that those cream trucks were full of the undead, but who knows for sure, and what would they do with them then? The GPS pointed me right to the track to the farmhouse. Like the one we left, it was a plain dirt track, the house a good way from the road. I stopped the car toward the back, looking for anyone wandering around. Nigel parked alongside and came out of the truck with his rifle in hand. I thought I better take my axe too. He was ahead of me, making for the back door, then knocking on the wood and calling out, "Anyone home?" "It's Iggy." Even behind him I could hear the moaning and hissing coming closer. We were too late. "Do you want me to do the door and slice them? You can stand back and watch our rear." He did step back a couple of paces and brought his rifle up ready to use. "Only the center of the brain stops them," I said, taking his place in front of the door, then turning the latch and feeling it release. No locks in the country, the door opening by itself and the noises getting louder as a young lad walked through the doorway. My instinct to slash his head stopped as he looked so normal. Not until he hissed directly to my face that I snapped out of my wishing and swung the axe, his head sliced in half in one swing, but my hesitation had allowed two more undead to get through the doorway and they had their teeth snapping right toward me. The weight of that axe made it slow to prepare to swing again, and my second swing was atrocious, only hitting one in the arm and making both of the undead hiss even more. I had to step back to keep away from them, and through my panic I saw another two coming through the doorway. 4 at once. This swing was a bit better, chopping the head off the one I'd wounded before, and as he fell, another tripped over his body, giving me a good shot of splitting his head in two. 2 more to go. Make that 3, another had come through the doorway. I stepped back even more, the axe by my side, trying to build up strength to swing it head height again, but only 2 were following me. Axe back, I began swinging as I walked toward the pair, my arm lifting that axe high and slicing as the closest undead head was in front of my swinging axe. Splat! Another down and one close behind. I needed to step back and try the same maneuver. Another success. There was still a head hissing in the pile, but that could wait. I needed to find the one that had escaped. She was by Nigel. So close her arm was touching his shoulder. If it wasn't for the hissing, she could have been normal. I got her when she was inches from biting his face, the blood and brain mush covering his stunned face as she fell. We'd found his love. I knew it would be some time before I could talk seriously about what had happened, so I kept on as though everything was normal, guiding him away from the bodies and asking if he wanted me to check inside to see if there was water to clean us both up. He grunted and I did a quick run through the house alone. All doors open and nothing but blood and stink in every room. Even the bathroom stunk, but the taps did let water out, although I wasn't sure he would want to use it there. In a bathroom cupboard I found some clean towels, and brought a few outside with me. "Pretty messy inside," I said. "Might be better if we can find an outside tap." He could do that, moving toward a metal tank high up on a platform made from 4 thick poles. Below was a tap with water gushing when it turned. He used one towel as a washcloth and another to dry. His clothes were still messed, but his face and arms were clean. "Was that her?" I asked gently as he finished toweling. He only nodded. "I think we should get away from here. How about we stop in a few miles and talk?" He nodded again, and at least he started walking toward the vehicles. I was worried how he'd drive, but once we were back doing something familiar, his truck followed behind as before. I did stop soon outside a large metal-clad building along the side of the road. No sign of what it was, but our two vehicles did look right stopped against it. I was hoping he would get a grip of himself quickly. I did like having a partner, but I needed one that could help when needed. I was able to lay my love on her bed and tell her goodbye. I'm sorry you couldn't do that. He was blinking too much and I thought he might cry, so I went on. I needed to keep going, so I kept my tears for later. One day I'll let them go. I can still see her face, from before. I never got to hold her, he said shakily. Only when I moved her body from the floor. And that doesn't really count. Is it worth going on? Maybe I'd thought the same for an instant, but I had a quest to follow and he needed one too. It's always worth going on. When one quest ends, another takes its place. Winning or losing is not the end of trying, it's only the end of the current quest. You've lost that one, but how many more are there waiting for you to find? And not only this country. There is the whole world to search until you can truly say there is no more quests to follow. I wanted a family of my own. I knew how hard it had been for him to admit that, and I knew it needed a considered answer. I still want a family of my own too. A daughter that takes after her mother. I wouldn't want any daughter to look like me, and a son to teach how to live without making the mistakes I made. What if you never find it? He sounded a little better. I'll die trying, but I won't die easily. I was no good when you needed me. It will come. I've had more practice, but you'll get that in time. Anyway, Nigel the mechanic, maybe your real task isn't splatting zombies. I should call you Paul the Axe. He looked better, even a trace of a smile. Let's cover some more miles, I said, there are quests to follow. I know. I felt better as we drove off, more confident that next time we would run into trouble he would be quicker to join in.